Westmoreland police are this evening relieved after a major discovery yesterday in the parish. Among the find, several rounds of ammunition. The find included several rounds of ammunition, like we said, and CVM's Rohan Daly picks up that story.
Quick research turned up the ferocity and power of this weapon, designed by the Israelis, one of their preferred firepowers, used in combat by various militaries across the world and the ongoing fight against terrorism. The Tavor 21, known as the TAR, is an assault rifle with a selective fire system, selective between semi-automatic and full automatic fire mode. The Westmoreland police were able to make this massive find, acting on intelligence received. The cache included a magazine containing 6.762 cartridges. Deputy Superintendent of Police in charge of operations in the Westmoreland Division, Charles Russell, again made clear the significance of the find.
This weapon is a very dangerous weapon. It was equipped with a scope. It is the first of a kind a weapon like this has been found in the Westmoreland Division and I think also in Jamaica.
The Deputy Superintendent pointed to the ongoing efforts by the police in ridding Westmoreland of these illegal firearms, which have become a worrying sign, highlighting the firepower that exists in the hands of criminals.
This is the type of weapon that the Westmoreland police are facing on a daily basis and putting the police lives and also citizens at risk.
The Westmoreland police are relentless in their engaging of citizens.
We are asking the good citizens of Westmoreland to work with your local police and tell us what you know and give us the necessary relevant intelligence so that can lead to the recovery of similar firearms in the Westmoreland Division.
Rohan Daly, CVM Live.
And the Westmoreland police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Clifton Lawn, a 45-year-old fisherman of a Newmarket Oval address. Police reportedly responded to explosions in the area, and on their arrival, Lawn was seen lying along the roadway with multiple gunshot wounds to the chest. Meanwhile, Rohan Lewis, otherwise called Gucci Man, an unemployed man of Carl Thompson Drive, Kingston 20, was shot and killed by unknown assailants. Reports from the police are Lewis was seen lying along the gully bank with multiple gunshot wounds to the head and chest. And despite the heavy security presence in St. James during the enhanced security measures, 3 bodies were discovered. The first, that of a 15-year-old girl, Tiana Clark, a student of St. James living at Cunningham Drive, Granville in St. James. Her body was discovered about 8:30 a.m. in an unfinished building at Browns Lane in the parish. And the body of Simon Dixon, a 54-year-old woodworker of Browns Lane, Granville, was found with wounds to his face and forehead. Both homicides are being investigated by the police. President of the PSOJ, Howard Mitchell, at a recent Rotary Club meeting, urged Jamaicans to hold their elected representatives to high standards and demand that they fulfill their promises. According to Mr. Mitchell, the state is failing.
The state is failing, and that's not just the view of some common folk. The latest utterances came from the president of the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica, PSOJ, Howard Mitchell.
There's a portion of the state's responsibilities which are not being carried out. And maybe the people here assembled do not have personal experience of that fact. But I do, and I know people, many people who do. And in addition to that, a part of public order and citizen security is the ability to give people, allow people the opportunity to have proper housing, proper utility services, proper hygiene. We have failed in that respect.
Mitchell, while addressing Rotarians earlier this week in the corporate area, said persons should set high standards as individuals by which they should aspire to live, and likewise hold their elected representatives to those high standards.
To have a set of standards and to hold those who work for us, those who we have elected, those who we have nominated, appointed, to those standards, because that's what they promise. And if they fail to meet the promises, then it's not sufficient to wait for the election. And the election, by the way, is to a great extent a representation of a democratic will, but it doesn't go to the details. We need to speak out.
He sought to explain why it is critical to demand more from politicians.
Two things a politician is afraid of. One is that the funders will withdraw their funds, and that's wrapped up a lot in the PSOJ, okay, and we're trying to deal with that. And the other is public opinion. They do not like to be called out. They don't want to feel that their control, that their influence, their reach is slipping away, and that's our job.
Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
On to this update, a Clarendon man who spent his young years behind bars and who is now encouraging youngsters in his community to stay out of trouble continues to work to support himself. This evening we make an appeal on his behalf because his house is falling apart and he's unable to make the necessary repairs on his own. John Wayne, born Wayne Morgan, knows what it is to survive rough times. At 73 years old, he's been through the prison system because of his own wrongdoing, for which he has been punished. Not only did he also forgive himself, but he has committed to being a good citizen.
I work my ground, plant whatsoever I can plant. Is it a liver? I plant banana, cassava, potato, gungo, and had a catch crop.
The turnover time for the returns from his crops varies.
Whatsoever money when I make, I just pay back my fare, come back home, maybe buy 2 pounds of sugar, 2 pounds of flour, and 1 pound of salt, and 1 pint of coconut oil.
Added to that is the amount he pays for lease of the acre of land he's occupied for some 14 years after rehabilitation. This senior's pace does not reflect his age, especially since he is also the survivor of a major motor vehicle collision in which he was the only one injured and required 6 months and 4 days in hospital.
I broke the jaw, I broke the high rim, I broke the nose, I broke the 2 foot, 24 teeth one time come out of my mouth.
He can hardly call this place home anymore. The small dilapidated dwelling in Sutton, Clarendon can tumble down on him as he sleeps.
I feel laugh. And I win that them the scorpion infest hyenas. And I kill more than 2 dozen scorpion hyenas.
Inside, each step is calculated while he uses concrete blocks to keep the flooring from caving in. The posts from top to bottom all around the house are feeding ground for termites.
In the rainfall, I have to sit up because water coming from all parts of the top in the roof.
Mr. Morgan, who lives alone, takes pride in keeping his little place clean and tidy. He's not ashamed to admit he needs help. He cooks on wood because his old hot plate has done its time and his toilet and bathroom also expose him. He has relatives, he says, and they live good, but as it is, he's surrounded by his cat and a dog. Trelawny's tourism interest need not worry amidst criminal migration as the parish is under the protection of the police. That's the word from the superintendent in charge of the parish's operations. The senior officer outlined several measures which have been put in place to protect locals and tourists in the coming days. More on that from Nika Lewis.
Thousands of tourists dock at the Falmouth Pier each week to explore the quaint and historic sites of the parish, which boasts the luxuries of the North Coast and the Cockpit Country. In recent times, it seems news of the criminal migration may have left the foreigners fearful, but the head of operations in the parish has sought to allay those fears.
Since the installation of the cruise ship here in Trelawney, we are seeing an average of over 700,000 visitors that use the township of Falmouth each year. And that is very significant for the parish of Trelawney, which is having the requisite economic boost for Trelawney. As it relates to policing around the product, we have managed within the resource that is at our disposal to be rolling out adequate plan for the policing of the cruise ship here. So we want to assure our international partners too that coming into Falmouth is a relatively safe place.
The superintendent is keen, however, that the only way such order and relative safety can be assured is through partnership with the people and the police.
We are not fooling ourselves to say it will remain safe. So we are saying to the citizens that they need to partner with us, law enforcement official, to ensure that this vital product, the tourism product, is maintained in the Trelawney space. So we are thanking to the Port Authority of Jamaica as it relates to the work that they are doing in Falmouth. So I just want to say that Top Street in Falmouth is slated for major development, which will have some effect as it relates to the movement of traffic within the space.
He said the work, despite delays, are expected to start by Monday, February 19, and appeals to the public for their consideration. Nika Lewis, CVM Live.
A man is dead and the driver of the car in which he and 4 other passengers were traveling is under police guard in hospital. The police are waiting on his explanation as to what caused the fatal crash in St. James. Persons allege he was intoxicated. Information surrounding Saturday morning's crash along the Albion Main Road in St. James is very sketchy. Our correspondent saw police officers reportedly from the Freeport police station on the scene. They too were trying to gather information on the crash, including where the occupants were traveling from and where they were going. Our newsroom, however, understands the driver of the motor car is in hospital under police guard. An unconfirmed report is 5 persons were coming from a party, and our camera captured this bucket and other items inside the vehicle. Ironically, the direction in which the vehicle eventually came to a stop close to the infirmary was not the direction in which it is said to have been coming from in the early morning hours. It's understood the car made contact with a light post, got out of control, spun around and, while swerving, made contact with a curb wall also. It's also alleged that, unknown to the driver, the head of one of the passengers was also making contact along the way. Our correspondent spoke to this man on location.
Man of a drink and junk and drive. It go by a law. Yeah. You have someone a drink and a drive and then can control the steering. So then sit there no right.
So he was drunk himself?
Yeah, all of them the drunk in a car.
So what was the driver?
The driver gone to hospital.
Alright.
Yeah, man. Me just saw the man head out the door.
We were unable to ascertain the identity of the person who died, although we were told that a receipt bearing a name was found inside the car, and persons on the scene referred to the victim